Howdy, my name is John Hendrix. I was born in 1865 over in Bear Creek Valley of what is now Oak Ridge, just at the end of the War of Northern Aggression, which, as you know, was the war between the Yankees and the Americans. My parents had decided to leave Morgan County and move here after receiving harassment at the hands of Northern troops. I was the youngest of 8 children to my parents Luke and Jane Hendrix. Growing up on a farm was a hard life, and we boys learned to work real hard. I learned to build split-rail fences with my brother Elisha. I once caught a fox and turned in his pelt for the dollar bounty. I was rich. My mama died when I was a young man, and that just left Daddy and me alone. But we moved in with our older sister and her family. In 1888, when I was 23, I found myself a bride, Julia Ann Griffith, and we married. We found us a piece of property in Robertsville, and we settled down and had us 4 babies. We planted some fruit trees along the creek that I could sell from. Well, one day a terrible thing happened. My baby girl Ethel died, and her just 2 years old. My wife blamed me because I spanked her before she died. Maybe I had been a little too hard on her, but she died of diphtheria, and I didn't have anything to do with that. My wife wound up leaving me and took the rest of my kids with her off to Arkansas. I was so heartbroken. I had just lost my baby girl and now the rest of my family. This tragedy led me into a deeper walk with the Lord. So I walked in the woods and prayed for hours seeking Him. One day I heard the Lord speak to me. His voice sounded like thunder. He told me if I would lay with my head on the ground for 40 nights, that He would tell me the future. I know it sounds strange, but then Ezekiel laid on his side for 1.5 years, and he even had to cook over manure. Isaiah had to walk around naked for 3 years. I'm glad I didn't have to do anything like that. So I did it. I found me a place in the woods, and I laid and prayed for 40 nights. Sister Claire came and laid a blanket on me one night when it was so cold, and another night my hair froze to the ground. During this time, the Lord showed me many things. He showed me a railroad was coming through Elza, and even a tunnel through a mountain. No one had ever seen such a thing in these parts before. He showed me a railroad spur would run right down beside my property. He showed me a big building to house the center of authority would be built between Joe Pye's and Sevier Tadlock's farms. He showed me big factories over in Bear Creek Valley. He showed me thousands of people moving in here on the Black Oak Ridge doing construction and all kinds of things in those factories. This place would turn into a city and not just be a farm community anymore. He showed me many things being transported through the air. He showed me lime being used for fertilizer to make things grow better. He showed me that a big war was coming, a big one, and what was going to happen here was going to win it. And I saw a huge explosion, people confused, loud noise, and the earth shaking. After I saw all this, I came out of the woods and started telling everybody. Lots of people thought I was crazy. One woman even spanked her little boy for believing me. But like Jeremiah, I had to tell it. It was like fire shut up in my bones. I lived alone for the next 8 years, but in 1908, I thought I ought to settle back down. So I found me another wife, Martha Jane Gregory. She had 7 children, and we had another boy together. So the Lord gave me back double what I lost, just like Job. Some of the folks around here didn't like my stories, and I wound up in the county farm. It was an awful place. I climbed out of there, and I told them God would destroy the place. And a few weeks later, lightning struck it, and it burned to the ground. I was worried that the sheriff would come after me, and the Lord told me to place 8 rocks in the yard in front of my porch. The sheriff came and stopped at the rocks. We spoke for a few minutes, and he looked kind of puzzled, and then he just left. I came down with a consumption, which y'all call tuberculosis. Martha Jane panned me off to her daughter, Paralee, because she didn't want me around our baby boy, Curtis. I died in 1915, and I hadn't even had my 50th birthday yet. I was still hearing from the Lord, though, even though I was sick. I knew when I was about to die, and I told Paralee I was going to be with the angels, and then I did. They buried me up on the top of the hill so I could look down and keep an eye on my orchard. A lot of people think I was an old man but I was just 35 when I started having visions. After these prophecies came to pass, they started calling me the prophet of Oak Ridge. But Jesus said a seed must first fall to the ground and die before it can bear fruit. It wasn't me, though, you see. It was my little girl who died and became that seed. It was all because of her that I sought the Lord. And it was God's plan to build a weapon to stop that war, and there hasn't been another big one since. What took place here was an awesome miracle. Only a desperate situation would warrant dropping another bomb like that one, and I pray it doesn't happen. Since then, God has allowed this nation to prosper and to help keep the rest of the world in order. So keep praying for this nation, especially for us to return to our Christian heritage on which we were founded. Thank you.